Back in 1999, I wrote a book that I think has sold more copies than all my other 14 books put together, and it was
Really?
called Creating a Charmed Life. And one of those chapters was called Play Your Free Square. Now, your free square is like in the game of bingo. Everybody gets a free square. It's worth as much as any of the squares that you have to get by luck, but everybody has one. So I would invite you to think about yours, and I want to share one of mine with you. In fact, I think this is my main one, and that is the ability to meet interesting, fascinating, helpful people in some of the oddest ways. My guest today is someone that I met in one of those interesting, free square kind of fashions, and now you get to meet him too.
Hi.
Everybody. I am Victoria Moran, and I am your host for the Main Street Vegan Podcast. And my guest, whom, if you are watching on YouTube, you will already be seeing, is Darryl Williams. So here's how we met. Darryl sent out mailings as a realtor, as realtors often do, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm
hmm
wrong. They target certain areas where
Yeah.
certain properties are available. But what was
hmm
so cool about what he was sending was that he has a little tagline for himself, and that is the vegan realtor. So, of course, I was fascinated. I invited him to the party for Miss Liberty. We were doing some fundraising for our
Yeah.
feature film. He
Yeah.
actually came, and now here he is on the Main Street Vegan podcast. With apologies for my dog barking in the background. That's,
All good.
one of the things that
Yeah.
happens. Darryl was born in Jamaica, Queens, native New Yorker. Some of us have to
Yes.
emigrate. He
Yeah.
studied fashion. He is a Jesus follower, a husband and father, and a vegan for 26 years. Welcome,
Yeah.
Daryl.
Thank you. That's the intro. Wow. Thank you so much for having me, Victoria.
Well,
Um, yeah.
it's such a pleasure to have you and following you as I have for the past couple of years since we first met in that kind of an unusual way. I have come to learn that not only are you a New York City real estate agent, is that the term we use?
Yes. Real estate agent. Yes.
But
Correct.
you're with a very hot company right now, a company called SERHANT. If anybody likes reality shows on
Uh,
Netflix, uh,
yeah.
that's the company that's featured in Owning Manhattan, which is something that I was just watching as an absolutely
hmm
delightful guilty pleasure before I even knew that that was the company that you were
Yeah.
with. So you're out there in the big kind of, this is not a very vegan phrase, but dog eat dog kind of world of big city real estate. And
Yeah.
yet you're vegan, you are a believing person. I just find it utterly fascinating. So welcome. Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Victoria. And just real quick correction, the
Yeah,
tagline is the vegan broker NYC, just
the
for very
vegan
specific
broker.
broker NYC. It would be easier to find me instead of realtor. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm so sorry. I had that
All good.
mixed up in the brain. So yeah, okay, the vegan broker NYC. Cool.
hmm
So, well, let's talk about that tagline.
Yeah.
I mean, well, for one thing, what gave you the nerve to do
hmm
such a thing? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, don't say you're vegan, people won't like you." So tell us
Right.
how that came about.
So I was trying to figure out what my personal brand was for a long time when I became a real estate agent, right? Because a big part of it in the age of social media, whether you're an independent contractor like myself or a small business, you have to have branding. Branding is what draws people to you, what gives you customers. So I was trying to figure out what would differentiate me from the 80,000 brokers that we have in New York City. And I was trying different things. Like maybe I'll do fashion because I worked in fashion for a bit. I went to the fashion school. But then I was like, it just dawned on me one day. I was like, wait, but I've been a vegan for so long. It's literally what people remember about me. Like, when people around me, they're like, oh, I should try to eat more healthy without me actually saying it. But people just kind of feel like they need to do so because they're friends with me. And I was like, oh, I should just lean into this. Like, it's popular, it's trending as well. And I've been one for a very long time. So I was like, one day I was like, the vegan broker NYC. And I was hesitant at first for some of those reasons as well. But I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna do it. It's catchy, people like it, it's memorable, and people remember me for it now. I've had some people in the like when I at showings like, "Oh, you're the vegan broker." So like it's catchy. So that's how I came about the name. It took a while. It took a couple years to realize that my brand was real estate and vegan food, and then bam, the Vegan Broker NYC was born.
Well, I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great, and I think it's going to give a lot of people listening kind of the courage to own the V word. Now,
Hmm.
you did talk about veganism as trending, and I think it's a little bit anti-trending now. Have you noticed
Yes.
that? Have you seen?
Yeah, I've seen that. The peak was like 2019.
Yeah.
Like that's when it kind of peaked. You had Beyond Beef and the company and going public. You had celebrities investing in it. But yeah, it is kind of now downturned in the last couple of years, unfortunately.
But
And with
still
that,
on the right
yeah,
side of history. So,
yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about you. Before you were the Vegan Broker NYC, you were a vegan
Hmm.
guy. And how did that happen?
Yeah, so I was 7 years old when my mom decided that me and my brothers that she was gonna change her dietary lifestyle. She heard a lecture about it at a church in Florida in 2000. My mom suffered seizures at that time, and then when she changed her diet, she noticed, I think maybe 6 to 9 months later, that she hadn't had a seizure, and from there she was just so we went vegetarian first. That's usually the catalyst, right? And then after she realized she didn't have a seizure, she was like, okay, I'm gonna stick to this. And then eventually we became vegan at some point. I can't really remember. Again, I was 7. And I was raised in a Caribbean household. So it's like whatever mom cooks is what you eat. If you don't eat the dinner, you go to bed hungry. There's no cooking separate meals for the children versus her. And so yeah, so we were raised that way. It wasn't a decision I made at 7. Now, as I got older, I decided to stay vegan, plant-based because of the health benefits. An example of my mom and like how she had seizures, and when she changed her diet completely, she stopped having them. And I guess I'll clarify here, like for me, that is the main reason why I'm a vegan is the health benefits, the ability to change people's lives who have chronic illnesses. So I don't necessarily term myself as an ethical vegan. When people ask me that, I was like, well, I don't think you should eat animals, but like I'm not that's not why I became a vegan. I was 7 and then I decided to stay because of the science behind the health benefits are just it's so compelling to me. It's like why wouldn't you want to eat better and live longer, especially in a nation that has so many chronic diseases?
Absolutely. And hopefully, as veganism becomes popular again, so will science in this way. That the
Yeah.
science it's very strong. It's very powerful on the health benefits. There's so
Hmm.
many reasons to do this. So, do you happen to know when your mom went to that lecture, was that a Seventh-day Adventist church, or
Oh
do you know
yeah,
who
no, it
was
was. It is
lecturing?
Seventh-day Adventist. So we are Seventh-day Adventist Christians. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's where she heard it. And that's when she decided to change her diet. Yeah.
Well, and this is so interesting to me because if
Yeah.
you look at the history of vegetarianism and later veganism, certainly in the Western world, there was so much input from religious groups, and some of them have died away. There was something called the Bible Christian Church that was very big, and the whole vegetarian
Mm.
thing in the late 1800s and early
Oh
1900s.
wow.
But
I didn't know
but
that.
with the Seventh-day Adventists, the recommendation has stayed. It's not a requirement, but it's
Yes,
certainly a
correct.
strong recommendation.
Yes.
And I always recommend to people Counsel on Diet and Foods by Ellen G.
Hmm.
White, who's, I think, a co-founder of
Yes.
Seventh-day Adventist Church, because just from her, deep prayer and meditative states, she came up with information about diet and nutrition that is just what the scientists are coming up with today. It's really quite
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, no, it really is. Yeah, and it's good to clarify. Yeah, it's not a requirement. I would say
No,
most people, I'd say probably less than half are actually vegetarians, and even
yeah.
less are vegans. Like, but no, it is. It's definitely one of those things where it's like, I, why wouldn't you want to be healthier? It's fascinating to me that people won't do it when they hear the science about it. And I was like, I guess you got to find a different catalyst for some people, you know?
Yeah. I think people always think that any kind of change is going to be a punishment. It's going to be
Yeah.
really difficult. I'm going to be giving stuff up.
Hmm.
When I think most of us find that we eat more foods, more varieties of foods, more kinds of spices and flavorings and cuisines of the world, than we ever did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now this is helping me understand a little bit more about you, Darryl Williams, Vegan Broker NYC.
Yeah.
That when I look you up on Instagram, and you are right there as it's the Vegan Broker NYC on Instagram, there
Yeah.
is a reference to a Bible quote. What is
hmm
that, and why is it meaningful to you?
Yeah, great question. So it's what Romans 1:16. It's one of the books from the New Testament. And the verse says, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it's the power of God unto salvation for all who believe. And the reason why I put that there, it's one of those things as I grew older, like I was raised in the church, I was raised as a Christian. There was a period of my life where I lived life on my own terms, as I like to say. And then I, did a deconstruction and a reconstruction of my beliefs. And, I came back to the examining different worldviews. And for me, again, this is not me telling anyone on this podcast what to believe, but the evidence points that the Christian worldview is the best worldview that answers the problem of evil and pain and suffering in this world from my studying of different worldviews against Christianity. So once I came to that conclusion, I was like, I'm I'm not ashamed of believing what I believe because I believe it for good reason. There's evidence for it. And for that reason I put it in my bio. So people that knows me, I'm not trying to hide this part of my life. I eat vegan and I also a Jesus follower. I know that seems counterintuitive for a lot of people in the vegan community. But that's who I am. I'm those are just, two sides of who I am. And that's why I keep it. So like I'm unashamed to have this conversation with you about it on a podcast that other people might see. I'm like, he's a Christian. I don't really want to hear what he has to say. But maybe they will because they're like, oh, but he's also a vegan. Like, how does that work? So, but yeah, that's that verse, and it means a lot to me. I have a sweater that has it on it, and it's just something that anchors me in every day when I go out. That I'm unashamed to be a follower of Jesus. I live in a city of like New York where there's not a lot of believers. In the supernatural or the afterlife or anything like that. But it keeps me grounded.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. One of my fascinations is people who don't check all the boxes for their label. I remember
hmm
as a young vegetarian back in the 70s, I would meet people and they would so often say, "Then you must garden." And it's like, I eat
Yeah.
vegetables. I don't
Yeah.
grow them. And that was the first time I really got it, that whenever you present yourself to the world, you come with all of these attachments. So, like
hmm
nowadays, somebody might say, okay, well, you're young. That means you spend all your time with your face in a screen and you can't talk to human beings. That's very unfair. You are
hmm
old. You don't even know how to turn on the computer. You are completely out of touch. Not fair,
Yeah.
not fair. But the same thing, you get labels like vegan, labels like
hmm
Christian, labels like
Yeah.
whatever. And so there seem to be all these other things that go under that label. And when
Right.
people are like, no, it's kind of pick and choose. I am a unique individual and I can have this and some of these other things from some of these other lists. So,
Exactly. We're not monoliths, like there's life
exactly.
experience that comes that's informing all of these things in the person I am today. There's history behind it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's bring in another descriptor for you, which
Okay.
is real estate agent.
Yes.
I think, we can kind of get kind of, spiritual person, vegan, that's
hmm
all kind of jiving. And then real estate agent, that brings a whole other
Yeah.
set of personality traits,
Yeah.
skills that you need to develop. So tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so I never thought I'd be in sales. Like I said, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, studied there for 4 years, got my bachelor in production management for fashion and related industries. I worked in fashion for a few years. In 2018, I got let go from my job, and I was like, I've always been interested in real estate. I was doing Airbnbs at the time in New York City, so I'd meet real estate agents all the time. Every month, I was renting an apartment, furnishing them, and then putting on Airbnb for short-term rentals, and that's what really got me piqued and interested in real estate. And so when I got let go, I was like, let me do the real estate course. I have the time now. I've always been interested. And way, way back in the day, my mom was a real estate agent as well. She's now a nurse practitioner, but way back in the day, she was a real estate agent. So I was like, let me just do this. So I took my time. I did the course in 2019. I got licensed. And then from there, the the rest is history. And I fell in love with it because I like meeting people. I like the product. I like beautiful apartments, and then like it's just I just love everything about it. The negotiations, the fast pace. It can be a little cutthroat. It's definitely stressful. I've gotten a lot of gray hairs because of real estate. But that's how I ended up here as a real estate agent 7 years later, and I'm still in the business. It is cutthroat. There are some people who are less than kind, but it's a small business, so your reputation matters. So yeah.
So this is very interesting to me. I remember ages ago, I was at Ralph Abernathy's church basement in Atlanta doing a fast to draw attention to hunger. Dick
Hmm.
Gregory, the comedian and civil rights activist, headed that up. And to keep us all entertained, he had famous people doing three-way calls with us every night. And a couple of nights it was Muhammad Ali.
Oh
And
wow.
somebody called out to him at that time, he was still fighting, hey, champ, when are you going to go vegan? And he said, when I get out of this violent business. Now, I'm not comparing selling real estate
A
to
boxer.
getting in a ring, punching somebody,
It can be like
but
that sometimes.
yeah, I was going to say there are parallels.
Yeah.
So you are this kind person. You're part of a religion that has to do with love and mercy,
Hmm.
and you eat a diet that many people believe hones the spiritual sensibilities. And yet you're out there not just selling real estate, but selling real estate in New York City.
See. Yeah.
So, what's it like? What do you do when you run into one of these cutthroat scenarios?
I mean, it's a fast-paced business, right? It's like the day-to-day changes. But it keeps you on your toes, and I guess I'm addicted to sales. I think that's what it is. It's like once you close a deal, you put your first deal in contract. Yeah, when I put my first deal in contract in 2020, I was hooked. I was like, this is for me. Like I love it, and that's what kind of got me into the business. Now, it could be one of those things like from people that I've known who like it's a fast-paced business. You don't sleep a lot, you drink a lot, you don't eat healthy because you have late nights. You start your day with coffee, you end your night with alcohol because you just need to relieve the stress. So that can happen. But again, I'm a very disciplined person. So I get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, have morning devotional, go to the gym. I intermittent fast, so I don't eat until noon. So all of those disciplines is how it keeps me grounded in the industry and not to take stress like my stress level is very high. And then also as a Seventh-day Adventist, I do take Saturdays off, so I don't do any work. And rest is super important. So instead of working to rest, I work from a place of rest. And that goes with diet as well. Fasting 16 hours and only eating between 8 hours gives my body time to rest. And also I feel more focused and energized during the fasting phase. So that's kind of what keeps me going in this business, like how I can handle the stress levels and the cutthroatness of negotiations at times, dealing with difficult people, not just other agents, but difficult clients of mine, difficult buyers or difficult sellers. I've had some really stressful moments in this business. I make like, why am I doing this? But I'm still here because I just love sales. I love the people that I meet and the clients I get to help change their lives, or the upgrading, or helping a family for the first time buy a home when it seemed impossible.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I love the discipline. I have a hard time at this point in my life of getting up early in the morning. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying I sleep in all day, but sometimes I will sleep into quarter of seven. It's too
yeah.
late. It's too late. I've
Right.
lost the best hours of the day. So when you tell me you're up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, I am in awe. I will think of you tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off, and I totally jump out of bed. Because sometimes we just sort of need to
No, I
inspire each
understand. Yeah,
other.
yeah.
So, how is it with your colleagues? I mean, I don't know much about real estate in New York City. I mean, I bought one condo, a little bit
Hmm.
traumatic experience. I think it always is
It
to
can be
deal in
traumatic buying in New York.
real estate
Yeah,
in New York. And then, of course, I've watched Owning
mhm.
Manhattan, which has just been so much fun. But of course, it's fun with the other people having the stress on the screen. I'm just
Right.
observing. So, how is it? How is it with your colleagues? I mean, do you guys hang
Mm.
out? Do you get along? I mean, I presume you don't drink alcohol.
No, I don't. I don't drink alcohol.
And it seems like, when I watch the reality show, there's a lot of
Yeah.
drinking alcohol. So how do you fit?
It's I've always been like that. So like from
Uh,
college, like I never drank. So people like, no, Darryl doesn't drink, or people might ask me if you want to drink, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. And I think people respect that. It's like, oh, you're vegan and you don't drink. You're like, you're way too healthy for me. That's usually the response I get. But the people are cool with it. Like, they don't make me feel ostracized because of it. Um, but when my colleagues see me, like when I go to the office, like I ran into a colleague, I think it was a couple weeks ago when we had our conversation. I was at the office that day, and he was like, "Hey, Darryl, I had a salad last night." So it's a little quips like that that people throw at me, which is fine. I find it fun and humorous, and like, "Oh, it's the vegan broker." So those are the kind of the things that I get from people, from colleagues and friends, like that. But it's all fun.
Cool. Now, how about dining out? It seems like there's an awful lot of that in your business.
Yes, I mean, if I do dine out, like I'm no longer on a team at SERHANT, but I was on a team. And like if we would do like team dinners and stuff, they would always accommodate me. They were always like, does the restaurant have a vegan menu, vegan items? Because we do have a vegan on the team. And we want to accommodate him. So people always will accommodate me because I'm not an obnoxious vegan. So people accommodate my dietary lifestyle for going to a place and majority of the people on the team are not vegans. So which I totally understand if you don't accommodate, I'm not gonna be mad about it. I would just eat before I go if I had to do that, which I used to do in the past. Yeah.
So you've got your own series, Vegan Bites and Burrows. What's that about?
Yes. So fun little story. So when I got Sirhan, and because I figured out my branding, it was real estate and vegan food. And when I got to Sirhan, I know that they had a real estate adjacent lifestyle channel called Listed by Sirhan. And I was like, if I ever get over to Sirhan, I'm going to pitch them an idea for a show. And I really hope they do it. And so when I got over, I spoke with the person who's head of the Listed by Serene department. I was like, I have an idea for a show. Like, I'm on a mission to eat at every vegan restaurant in New York City. I would love to put this in like an episodic series. In my mind, it was longer, like 10 to 15-minute episodes, but time constraint and all that can't do it as long as I wanted to, but maybe in the future. But I pitched the idea and I was like, this is to go to different restaurants and vegan restaurants, different boroughs, different neighborhoods, and highlight them. If we can, interview the owner or at least the head chef of the restaurant. Um, and that was in 2024. I pitched it and they were on board from day one. They're like, this is great. We don't have anything like this in our listed series. A lot of it's like real estate adjacent lifestyle, art, decor, staging, but nothing like this, a show that's just dedicated to highlighting vegan restaurants in different boroughs in New York City. And the first episode we did was at Jarrell's Better Burger in Soho. And then from there, it just kind of took off and they're really happy about the numbers that it did in terms of views. And then we've been doing them ever since. It's been 2 years now. I think I have like maybe 8 or 10 episodes. But
Oh, that's great.
it's so fun and it helps build the brand, reinforce the brand of the Vegan Broker NYC.
Right. Plus, it helps the restaurants.
Yes, it helps the restaurants. It highlights them. They're always super appreciative. They're like, yes, of course, please come in. And I'm not one of those. I always offer to pay, but for a lot of part, they kind of give me the food for free. But
Ah,
sometimes I do pay. I like, please let me pay for the food because I will come here regardless anyway and
right.
pay. But they've been so great and generous with us coming in and kind of disrupting, if you will. But it's been great. Like some of my favorite episodes was the first one with Jarrell's Better Burger, Healthy as a Mother in Williamsburg that we did, and then we recently did they rebranded since then, but why can't I remember the name right now? It's in Brooklyn Heights. It's a Dominican fusion vegan restaurant. Next Stop Vegan.
Ah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, that's the show. And we just dropped the episode Soda Club with Soda Club. That was like a Valentine's Day edition. Now Valentine's Day is past, so but you should still go to the restaurant if you haven't been.
So, where do we find the show?
So you can either go to my Instagram page and just go to the reels and you will see each of the episodes on there, or you can go to Listed's Instagram page, Listed by Serhant, and have all the shows there. But they also post every other like content on there, so it might have got lost in there. So it's easier to find it on my Instagram page as
Okay.
well.
All right. Very
Yeah,
cool. And so that Instagram page is the Vegan Broker
and
NYC.
wise.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about veganism in the Black community. I know that at
Yeah.
least in recent years, we've been told that the biggest growing demographic within the vegan world is Black women.
hmm
Tell us how it is for you.
Yeah. So I can speak to just from my, again, my anecdotal experiences. And obviously, I am not a black woman. I am married to one, but like that, I can't, like, the reason for why there's so much with them is I'm not, I can't give you the details on that. But what I will say, growing up, so my family is Jamaican from the island of Jamaica. My grandfather was a Rasta. And if you know Rastafarians, they don't eat meat. So vegetarianism, some are vegan, and they call it ITEL living. So I grew up with that in the backdrop, and then it kind of is spread like within the Black Americans, Black community, the idea of like food deserts, not healthy access to healthy food. There's a documentary that if you haven't watched it, it's called "They're Trying to Kill Us," and it's about veganism in the Black community and how like the systemic racism has affected the food deserts in certain neighborhoods and no access to quality food and all of that. And that's kind of like for what I've seen, the biggest reason for that is health driven in the Black community for going plant-based. Obviously, I'm not saying that there's not ones that are ethical vegans for the animals and the environment, but an overwhelming amount I've seen is because of the health, and it has to do with just the history of in our country and in the food deserts and not the access to healthy foods. You have bodegas, liquor stores in the neighborhood, but no access to healthy food. So that it definitely is it's a growing demographic, and I think the main catalyst to that is the health reasons for it. But that's from what I've seen and observed around me.
Well, that it's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
veganism, I would say 15 years ago, it was still looking very white, even though some
Yeah.
of the Dick Gregory and other
Hmm.
black leaders had been
Hmm.
instrumental for years. The numbers, it was just like, gosh, this is a very white event I'm at. But that
Yeah.
has so turned
It
around.
shifted.
It's
Hmm.
just wonderful. It's a great way of life, and it's a
Yeah.
great way of life for
Yeah.
everybody.
And I think it's important to note too, like if you go back historically, like cheese and dairy, these things were not really part of the diaspora's diet. Like going back to Africa, these are things were introduced to us as we were, dragged over here to the Americas. So like a lot of like growing up in Jamaica, for example, like my not me, I didn't grow up there, but like my mom and like a lot of the times they're eating rice and yams and cabbage. Meat was like just for the weekends. It was like Sunday dinner or something like that, or it was expensive, so it was like a treat to have meat, but it wasn't in every meal every day. So it's like it's very different. It's just here in America where it's like it's a part of every meal. It's like protein, 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 meat, 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 meat. So it's just very interesting to note that connotation in terms of why you see the shift to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've only been to Jamaica once in my life. I wish it had been many more times. It's such a beautiful place. But I will always remember scrambled ackee at a Rastafarian restaurant. And
Okay, yes.
that's the national fruit of Jamaica, as I understand it.
Hmm.
But you can fix it so it's like eggs.
Yes, yes. It's yellow already. You just saute it in some water with some onions and stuff, and you eat it with fried dumpling,
Ah.
with some plantains on the side. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of like memorable meals. That would be a good book. You come from fashion, and so you
Yeah.
may have run into this book from several years ago. This woman wrote, she said, I think it was called What I Did and What I Wore. And it was this simple
Mm.
little picture book of these various outfits, through her life of what
Mm.
she wore for different things. But, somebody could do like where I was and what I
What
ate.
I ate. That's
And
nice.
that
That's what I ate.
scrambled ackee is a memory for me. There was mushroom
Yeah.
stroganoff in Spokane, Washington. I mean, it's just funny how you
Wow. That might be a new Instagram series where I was and what I ate.
I
That could be
like
an Instagram
it. I
series.
like it. So here you are in New York, and I know living the dream seems like a kind of vaulted statement, but the truth is, you've got a really good life. You have a fascinating career. You're quite successful. You're healthy. You're married. You're a dad. You know,
Hmm.
Congratulations. This world and this life is very difficult. And every time somebody
Indeed.
is, really acing it, that
Yeah.
is something to be proud of. So let's just imagine that there's some young person out somewhere in the world who wants to come to New York City and be successful. What would you say to them?
First off, thank you for thinking I've aced life. I'm still trying to figure it out as much as the next person.
I think
Oh,
it's a
well,
day at a time. You kind
yeah,
of
I said,
ace it for
yeah,
the day.
exactly, exactly. 4 steps forward, 3 steps back. But I would say to a young person that wants to move to New York City, is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, the only way I can honestly say this is like what I would tell myself when I was 21 or 19 when I moved back to New York to start college. Um, Truth, first, number one, like don't compromise your beliefs for anyone. Stay grounded, stay disciplined because this city can easily distract you and you can just go off the course into other things and end up like, why am I here? And how did I end up here? And what am I doing with my life? The city can easily drag you into so many distractions, so many different directions because there is so many distractions. Like it is the largest city in the world. It's a city that everybody wants to live, and it's so easy to just forget about who you are in the midst of New York City. So I would say number one, stay grounded, stay disciplined, and remember who you are. And if you don't have a strong sense of who you are, it'll be really to find some good people to be around you because it's very tough to lose yourself and then attach your identity to these different groups or different things along the way. And it might be temporary, and then you switch to something else, and you switch to something else. And then I would say find some roommates because it's expensive to live here. So get a roommate, get a 3 bedroom, find 4 roommates, 6 roommates. You guys share a room, a living room or whatever, but it's expensive. So like come prepared with money if you can save up and get some roommates because it's an expensive city and find a job ASAP. Okay. Have a plan. Don't come to New York City with no plan. Like have a plan. If you don't have a plan, stay where you are until you can figure out what you're going to do when you get here.
Very wise, very wise. So the watcher in me has a question. Do you
Mhm.
know if Owning Manhattan is going to have another series, another season? I know there have been two.
I have no idea.
No
Can't speak
idea.
to that, but
Okay.
look out for Netflix and follow Ryan on Instagram, and I'm sure you'll figure out. And I can't speak to
Okay, well
that.
you can let your boss know that there is another vegan who's a great fan. So,
We'll do.
Daryl,
Yeah.
what's ahead for you? What are your plans for the future? I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, everything is so discouraging and depressing and scary." And yet,
Hmm.
here we are,
Yeah.
called upon to make things better.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing for yourself and the world? What's
That
what's
is a
next?
that is a heavy question. What do I
Yeah,
do for
pretty
myself in the
heavy.
world? What does the future hold? I'm taking it day by day, step by step, prayerfully. And the best that I can do for the world is we all know the golden rule, do unto others as you have them do unto you. And I think the world would be a better place if people actually practice that more often. Like you want to be treated with kindness, you don't want to be looked upon, you don't want to be dehumanized, then treat others in that like manner. I think our world would be a much better place if we did that. And I'm trying to instill those values in my 2-year-old so that he can then go on and make the world a better place when he's older. So, currently doing that and then preparing the next generation to do that as well. Trying to spend more time with my family because work can take away from that. So that's, in the immediate future, day by day, more family time, more time with friends, connecting with people, reaching out to people. And one things I'm a big proponent on is having conversations with people that you fundamentally disagree with. Because it's
Hmm.
not good just to assume things from the other side, but have these conversations respectfully, no ad hominem attacks, but just being sharing conversations like, hey, I disagree with that. Here's why. Um, because that's how we learn what other people actually believe. And there's nuance to things. Things are not as black and white as we think in this world. And I think we understood nuance a lot better, had conversations with people who had different views from us, treating people the way we wanted to be treated. I think the world would be a better place.
Hmm.
But obviously, my Christian worldview, I'm gonna like you. We need Jesus. That'll help a lot too.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing from the heart, not only what you
Yeah,
do, who you are, how you see
thank
things.
you.
It just means a lot. So I do want to do a shout out to our sponsor, Complement. That's Complement with an E in the middle. These are wonderful dietary supplements made by vegans for vegans. So Matt Frazier, the meat-free athlete, is in on those. Pamela Ferguson, PhD, registered dietitian. Joel Furman, MD. Lovecompliment.com is the website. There's a whole array of whatever you might need to complement your whole food plant based diet. And because I am grandmothered in, if you use
Mhm.
the discount code Main Street, all capital letters, you get 10% off not only on your first order, but on every order subsequently. So it's a good deal if you check out lovecompliment.com and you like what you see there. So you can get a discount and your body can feel better, and then we'll all live happily ever after. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Darryl Williams, for sharing
Thank you for having me.
with us today. And everybody else, you know what we're supposed to do? Get out there and make Main Street vegan.